the Elite 11, and we haven't talked about this a lot for Nebraska because they haven't had an Elite 11 quarterback in a number of years. I want to say maybe Johnny Stanton might have been the last one they've had.
Or was it was O'Brien.
Patrick O'Brien.
2015.
In
2015.
Anyway, Nebraska's new quarterback commit, Daniel Kaelin, was named to the Elite 11 finals this week that will take place later this month in Los Angeles. And who better to join us and break that down more than Brian Stumpf with Student Sports in the Elite 11, a longtime friend. I've known Brian for now, it's hard to believe, Brian, 20 years. And we appreciate you joining us here on Husker Online Headlines, and looking forward to talking about the Elite 11.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Happy to join. And it's the time of year where we get really popular, and signing day for, I think, a lot of recruiting analysts, is the push point. And you get these opportunities to come on and talk about kids. And for us, it's really, this time of year as we wrap the regional tour and we're heading into the Elite 11 finals. And you can add one more, because Jeff Sims, if you want to count him in the Nebraska Elite 11 tally, he was an Elite 11 finalist coming out of high school. Obviously, he didn't sign with Nebraska out of high school, but he was in that class with C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson back in 2019.
Let's start right there, Brian. What impressions did Sims leave on you? Well, if you were telling someone about Jeff Sims, what would you say?
He was a sponge. He had a lot of athletic tools. I think the closest comparison for him in that class, honestly, was Anthony Richardson. They were both really twitchy, springy, athletic. Didn't have a lot of quarterback experience as it relates to going to a ton of events. And Jeff had a private coach that he started working with there in his high school career, but not a ton of quarterback reps. Wasn't all over the 7-on-7 tournament, but just to talk about a ball of clay that a coach wants to mold. He has all the athletic tools, and he's also super coachable. So I think hopefully the opportunity for him to get in there with the staff that Coach Rule's put together and really be able to capitalize on all those tools he has, because he wants to learn and he wants to be great. And that's the impression we got from him in high school. Wasn't quite as polished yet as some of the other guys like the Bryce Youngs in that class and CJ Strouds and guys like that, but had all the tools and was willing to work and willing to learn. So, you're around guys like that. They have super high ceilings, and it's going to be exciting to watch and see what they can do with him this year out there in Lincoln.
Brian, speak more on the history of the Elite 11. Like I mentioned, it's been a while since Nebraska fans have had a reason to tune in to the event, and it's changed a little bit. I remember originally it was 11 quarterbacks plus a wild card guy way back, and the event's evolved. It's changed a little bit. Give us kind of an idea of the history of the event and how it's all set up now.
Yeah, sure. This is a big year for us. It's the 25th year of the Elite 11. So it was founded in 1999. And yeah, back then it was, hey, let's bring the top 11 quarterbacks out for a couple of days in Southern California and really give more coaching and instruction to the most difficult position to play in all of team sports. So it's evolved a little bit from them, but that's still the core. There's cool media around it now, and it's become a pretty big deal, which is great, and we're humbled by. So we want to give more guys the opportunity. So we go out and do regionals each year and canvass the country and work out. We probably worked out a little over 500 quarterbacks this year at 8 regional events. And then we select now our top 20 to come out for 3 days in Southern California and work. And we'll name an Elite 11, at the end of that. But really all these guys are super talented, and we're big fans of that'll get selected for the finals this year. And so there's a little ceremony with naming an 11 and an MVP and things like that. But really the goal is to lean in and pass on as much as we can. And in the time we have those quarterbacks with the great coaching staff and some college counselors and things like that. And truly try to give those guys the best chance they can to prepare and hopefully be successful at the next levels.
We have you here, Brian Stumpf. This is a great opportunity to ask you, why Daniel Kaelin? Why did he make the list of finalists?
Yeah, I think when you go back and you look at his tape from the fall, he's got an ability and a feel in the pocket. He's not a take off and run athlete, even as much as Zane Flores, who we also had, who was a Nebraska high school quarterback last year, the first quarterback from Nebraska. Zane maybe profiles as a little more of an athlete and a dual threat kind of guy, but Daniel from the pocket is really, I think, truly one of the top pocket passers in the nation this year, and his film showed that. He's got a great feel in the pocket. He's not a statue. He can move around and make those subtle moves, but he can also deliver the ball, really anywhere on the field. great arm, strong arm, also accurate. So we're excited about his upside as a passer at the next level. Think he's one of the top in the class when, it just comes to being able to distribute the ball and find open receivers and put it on the receivers. And he showed that at the regional we had. That was back in Ohio in late April, I believe. The dates blend together a little when we've been on the road for 6 weeks in a row, wrapping up the regional tour. But yeah, I think he's a guy to be excited about, and he's only going to get better as he gets into college, weight room and strength and conditioning program, and really grows into his man muscles, so to speak, in the next couple of years here.
Brian, you mentioned two quarterbacks from the state of Nebraska making the Elite 11 finals here 2 years in a row. I mean, how far has the development come in places like Nebraska? Because, we've known each other a long time, and I don't recall ever there really being Nebraska quarterbacks on the radar early when we first knew each other. There's kids like Nathan Enderle who was drafted by the Bears, but developmentally they were not ready to be at a showcase event like what you guys put on every year. I mean, have you seen that in a lot of places? And I mean, for kids now in Nebraska to have some of the same development skills as what, quarterbacks in California and Florida and Texas are getting, is that kind of the norm now, what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think over the course of the last 5 or 10 years, there's maybe been a little more of expansion or proliferation of the off-season opportunities for kids that are devoted to football, whether that's opportunities to play 7-on-7. That's not just a thing in California and in Florida anymore. There's traveling 7-on-7 teams from everywhere. And you also look at it from the quarterback personal trainer standpoint. There are guys now in Nebraska and in Kansas and in Missouri that are, offering those, same kind of opportunities for quarterbacks and their families, because mom and dad have to play a part in that and helping them get to and from events like that and things like that. But quarterbacks that are motivated to learn more about the game and work more on their craft and things like that in the off season. So yeah, I think as the internet is also, and social media has also brought us closer together, right? So there's opportunities and access to, more knowledgeable people and even remote learning sessions and things like that through social media now too. But yeah, I think as it relates to for athletes that are motivated and driven to be, the best they can be, you're not limited by geography anymore. And that's a great thing for the sport. And it's a great thing for kids that, yeah, you're spot on, Sean. Like 10, 15 years ago, they might've been too far off the grid to get out to Southern California, which for a long time was kind of the spot for all the private quarterback coaching and things like that. And now kids just have so much, better access, and there's so much information out there for kids that are motivated to increase their skill level and work in the off season.
Joined by Brian Stumpf. His official title, Sean, is Director of Operations for Student Sports, which is the company that founded Elite 11. Brian, I was reading some stuff, and you do work with these kids on off the field type things, these quarterbacks. What kind of things are you emphasizing when you talk about off field elements for that position?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways you can go. There's a number of places we have gone in the past. One of the things that we're most passionate about is helping these young men embrace the power of their influence, so to speak. So whether they like it or not, they play a position that commands respect for a lot of people in whether it's their high school, their community. We do this example every year with the players and their parents, and we ask the parents to recall who the quarterback was of their high school when they were in high school, and 95% of them, even the moms, know who the quarterback was. And then, okay, who was the mayor when you were in high school of your town? And they can't pull that, right? So these kids really are just coming into the realization of the ability that they have to make the world a better place. And it's a gift and it's a curse. And we just want to try to, open their minds a little bit to the opportunities they have to change other people's lives, really with simple gestures and, a little bit of their time. They can really help refocus things that, can get better in their communities, whether it's their locker room at school, their hallways at the high school. They have the power to open people's minds to, things that can be better in their communities. And so that's one of the big things we really like to lean on. And then we work with a children's cancer group called NIGU and a young man named Super Kate out here who's been an inspiration to so many of our quarterbacks over the years. And, it's a life-changing experience for these children that are going through tough circumstances to meet these quarterbacks and meet some of their idols and guys that are going to go on to play college and pro football. But But for our quarterbacks, they draw inspiration from just how courageous these young kids are going through their fight against cancer. And so it's really a mutually beneficial relationship when we're able to connect them with these courageous kids, and they can draw inspiration from both sides. And so, things like that are really important to us. And we get to spend, a good 60 to 65 hours with these guys. And it can't just be football. Otherwise, I think we'd be disingenuous in trying to change their lives for the better in all aspects of what they're doing.
Brian, you have a star-studded list of alumni that have been in your event. Out of curiosity, do you know the data? How many Heisman Trophy winners, first-round draft picks have been through your event? And are any of the what alumni are coming back this year? Do you have any of the alumni that will be a part of the event this year?
Yeah, we're working on the college list. Actually, where our dates fell this year is a little bit challenging from the NFL aspect, because we're still going to be right when NFL OTAs are finishing up. So we're hoping to have a couple guys drop through on that standpoint. We'll have a good college list that we'll release in a little bit here as we finalize that stuff going in. And then obviously we're working on finalizing the high school list. But yeah, I think we're at 15 of the last 16 quarterbacks that have won a Heisman have come through the event in some way, shape, or form. And then the last couple of years, obviously a nice run with Caleb Williams last year, the Heisman winner, who was the Elite 11 MVP in 2021, and Bryce Young was Heisman the year before, and he was in the 2019 finals with him and CJ competing for the MVP, and then competing to be the number one pick in the draft this year. So that was a really cool storyline to follow, just their relationship in general, and then how they've been so connected through the years, and in our event being a small part of that. So that's probably one of the funnest parts of this job, is being able to get off the road in the fall and follow the football season and see all these guys as they're going through their first, whether it's their first college start or, leading their team to CFP appearances and things like that. And then obviously Heisman Trophy is the cherry on top of the sundae for all these guys that dream about playing college football growing up. Right.
Brian, one of the things I read about you is you have a photographic memory. Is that true?
It might be true. That's what my wife says.
Does it help you in your role?
I think it helps from the standpoint of trying to keep names and, whether it's stats or figures or things like that, organized in some way, shape, or form. I think that's Sean, and you can speak to this too, as you go through this and you're in this space for many years, sometimes things can stack on top of each other, right? And you're trying to recall what classes kids were in or where they're from or things like that. So I think from that standpoint, when I think I have a decent recall when I see something on paper, I can have a pretty strong recall of it. But yeah, I think it's helpful. We see a lot of kids every year, and if you didn't have a great memory or recall, you'd have to end up watching a lot of tape or rewatching and canvassing your notes and things like that, for sure.
Brian, it's been great to reconnect and have you on. And I just, all the memories, all the year we worked a lot together, helping a lot of Nebraska kids, getting them in those Nike camps years ago when you were running those Nike camps, and we'd have Nebraska kids that I give you to get in those camps. And it was a lot of fun to kind of catch up, and looking forward to seeing the Elite 11. Is it going to be televised, or can people watch the event?
Yeah, we're working back on that. There will most likely be a post-produced show that'll air. That typically is in the fall, so they get time to edit and things like that. But we're hopeful that it's going to be one of the most robust programming features that we've had in the last couple of years, actually. So when we get that info finalized, we'll definitely do that. And then I think we'll also have some info on whether we're doing live streaming leading up to the event, or even just going on our Instagram live on the Elite 11 social accounts and things like that. But yeah, we'll do our best to publicize that in the days leading up to the finals event. So hopefully all the Husker fans can tune in and see how Daniel's doing out there.
Brian, they will tune in. So if you get it out there, the Husker fans will give you a bump. And there's obviously some Dylan Raiola curiosity with his connection to the program.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
I mean, real quick, will this be one of the first times that he's been on a stage with all the big guns in one room?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of these guys, it's the first time that they come together. There's various 7-on-7 tournaments or things like that, but for the most part, this is the first gathering, and then a couple of them might be in all-star games together right at the end of the year and things like that. But there aren't too many events where they all get to be in the same place, and especially for an extended period of time, they might bump into each other on college visits, right, or things like that. But that's usually 2 or 3 of them or 4 of them. So I think it's one of the especially if you ask the guys that have come through it, it's probably the coolest part about the event is that just them being able to sit down and start forming relationships. And a lot of these guys will play against each other, obviously, in college. But as they move through their football careers, they have more and more in common with each other and the experiences that they're sharing, whether they're battling for a starting job or thinking about going in the portal. They really become great sounding boards for each other. So this is a great spot for them, to start forming some of these relationships that'll be really important in their football life moving forward.
Well, Brian, thanks again. Have a great Memorial Day weekend and looking forward to following your event this year.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, you guys.